Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. We are very pleased to be part of the Variety Sports Network, and the show comes to you live from the Frank Walker Law Studio. And no, I did not forget to hit the button properly. StreamYard has been a mess. I'm actually a little bit surprised that we're up and running right now because it was really, really slow when I got on and started setting up tonight. I had to refresh. I had to do all kinds of stuff. So cross your fingers that it's going to work and work well. I see Aaron's in and Melvin's in and Burner's here and who else? Fly Pelican Fly. Hello. Don't know who you are, but welcome to the show. TD is in, and I think this will be a good one. They're all good ones, but oh man, you know what? Ian and Scarps, who apparently is on his own time tonight, wanted to do like an emergency podcast
Thursday after the game.
The game Wednesday night. I think you guys were thinking like what, Thursday. And I did think about it, but then I thought, you know what? We are just going to go off so bad. It's going to be just ugly. And I thought, no, we got to have a little downtime. Got to have time to process, you know. And what the hell is Ben doing anyway? He's muted. What? Yeah,
he went off video and then left his sound on, and we just had to like listen to him make himself dinner or something. I don't know.
He's feeding the dog. Oh, now he's back. Now he's back. Okay. Were we interrupting your evening tonight, Ben?
Yeah, this was unscheduled. Yes.
Well, I don't know. Apparently, Scarps thinks it's unscheduled because he's nowhere to be seen at this particular time. Although he said he would be here, and boy, I was going to go to him right off the bat, but I'll hold off on that. What the actual fuck happened to Russell Wilson? Asks Burner. Oh boy, there's so much to talk about here. Let's talk first and foremost about just the state of this team, because as we know, Mike Tomlin brought the guys in Thursday, which is the day after Christmas, after the loss. Obviously, he's not going to share much of what was discussed. Through numerous people that we've talked to and heard from, it was a kind of a come to Jesus meeting, if you will, for those who have used that term before. Airing of the grievances, if you will, because a lot of the defenders especially were doing that after the game on Wednesday. And Tomlin was very upbeat today, very positive in his presser, and sounds very much like a guy who likes where they left things. He likes seeing guys with fresh faces from having a few days off. Ian, all that sounds well and good, but what are your thoughts right now after the last several weeks?
3 straight losses is bad, but in perspective, it was 3 losses to 3 of the best teams in the league.
Okay.
And 3 of the hottest teams in the league. I mean, Phillies, before they lost to Washington, had won 10 straight games or something like that, and Kansas City's 15-1, and the Ravens were playing as good as anybody, and both Philly and Baltimore were road games. So, you know, if these 3 games had been spread out over the whole season and just happened kind of randomly, we probably wouldn't have read much into it. But 3 in a row in December, when you're in a chase for a division title and playoff seeding, it changes the perspective of the games tremendously. And we came into those games controlling our own destiny for the division title and basically just shit our pants in all of them. And really, they weren't even close. And I think that's the most disappointing thing, is that if we had lost, we talked about this before the Philadelphia game.
Yeah.
If we had lost 3 close games, that might be, even if we lost, would be encouraging that they were close with those good teams. But
Right.
we got our asses kicked 3 times in 11 days, and that flat out sucks.
I believe the score differential was 90-50.
Yeah, and I'll say this, even though we got our asses kicked 3 times, it's not as bad as losing twice in a week to 2-11 teams like we did last year. That was worse than what happened this year.
Right.
This
Right.
was bad.
Ben, now that you've had a little nourishment and have cracked a beverage there, what is your current feeling on the state of this?
Jubile Ale.
Jubile Ale, indeed. Current state.
The fact that if they hadn't beaten themselves so badly in those games,
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of piggybacking on what Ian said, but if they hadn't beaten themselves so badly in those games, it would be easier to accept. But they didn't just get beaten because they're not as good. And I don't think they were as good on those days as the other teams, clearly. They got beaten because they kept making mental mistakes. And that is very, very concerning to me. The defense hasn't played well for a month overall. They haven't. For a little while, the offense was doing enough. They were carrying it, but they're not now. Uh-oh.
Well, we can still hear you, Ben. Keep firing away.
Yeah.
Huh,
There
that
you
was
go.
Weird.
Yeah.
So, that to me is the big thing that it's killing me. I hope that all of those guys looked at themselves in the mirror and just said, what can I do better?
I want to focus on the defense first, because I think that got the bulk of the attention, especially considering what was going on in the locker room after the game on Christmas. And I think we all looked at the tape and we saw a lot of things. Our good friend Derek, he does a great job with breakdowns, and made the point right away. And Ian, you had a really, really good thread going on X, if you will, as well, talking about the freelance nature of some of the guys. And when we say some of the guys, we're pretty much talking about Cam Sutton,
the guy wearing 20. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just, to me, it's almost like, are you guys surprised he's still on the roster? I mean, the guy was basically doing whatever the hell he wanted to do.
It was really weird. And for people that weren't following my rants on Twitter, he got 43 snaps against the Chiefs, and Beanie Bishop got 0. Zero. Yeah. Which is crazy. This is a great question by KR. We definitely need to come back to this. So
yeah, we will. We absolutely will.
Yep. Yeah. And I was mad about it at first, the Sutton 43-0 snaps over Bishop. And after I got over being mad about it, I tried to think objectively, like, why would they trot Cam Sutton out there 43 times when he wasn't doing anything and not give Beanie Bishop a single snap? So the only thing I could come up with was that because they've been trying different things against tight ends, right? They tried Minka against Mark Andrews the first time around. That didn't go so great. He was outsized. They've been trying Patrick Queen a little bit, but Kansas City, we talked about this on the show last week, Kansas City runs a lot of 2 tight end sets. So, okay, you got to plan for one tight end, but how are you going to defend the other one between Gray and Kelsey?
Right.
And so the only thing I could come up with was that they thought Bishop was too small and undersized and didn't trust him covering tight ends. So they were like, well, Sutton's more of a veteran. He's got whatever. He's been around a little bit more. He can do some more things. Maybe we'll trot him out there, try and match him up on tight ends. And that's going to be our play because Kansas City runs a lot of 2 tight end personnel. I don't like it, but from an overall game plan schematic standpoint, I guess I can kind of understand it. But at the same time, you've got Cam Sutton just standing there, not even covering anyone, letting guys run right past him.
Kind of what I was going, where I was going.
So,
when you said they were trying new things, I was like, yeah, like not covering tight ends at all.
Right. So
that's a new thing.
Right.
What the fuck?
And the other side of it is too, if you're just going to sit there in cover 2 the whole time, it doesn't matter who's out there because you're just covering guys that are in your zone. So if you're just in cover 2, then it shouldn't matter who's out there, and you should be playing the better defender. And I posted a chart that I put together of snap counts and stats for both Bishop and Sutton. And since Sutton's come back against Washington after the bye week, even though he's been getting a increasing number of snaps in each game, Bishop still has better stats over that time. Like Bishop has basically doubled Sutton's stats in that time, while Sutton's taken more and more snaps over, which is crazy. And Vinny's point about miscommunication. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of miscommunication. A lot of it started after the bye week when Cam Sutton came back in the lineup.
Yeah, and Ben, are you there on audio? He's not even there. I'm not sure what happened to him. I really appreciated somebody like Deshaun Elliott, who's relatively new to the Steelers, but man, he didn't hold back. And was talking about this shit shouldn't be happening in week 16. And he's exactly right. It shouldn't be. Yeah. And, when Tomlin spoke today at his presser, he was talking about, well, a lot of that's personnel. We had some guys in and guys out. I'm not saying communication problems don't happen with other teams. They do. But your guys are the same guys you've had most of the season. All right, with a couple of little exceptions here.
Except for that one guy who came back during the bye week.
Yeah.
Who wasn't here for the first half of the year.
Elliott was exactly right. This shit shouldn't be happening. And look, we all know this isn't high school. This isn't college. This isn't Pee-wee, where when a guy goes and does what he wants, he gets pulled off the field and has to sit for a quarter. Nobody's suggesting that has to happen. But for the love of God, pull Sutton off and say, what are you doing? And put Bishop in there. And if Bishop sucks, then okay, do something else. But man alive, I was pissed off. So I don't know where Scarps is tonight. We hope he's okay. We haven't heard from him yet. Normally we get a little message or something. And as far as Ben, who the hell knows? Maybe Dave Matthews called or something on his hotline. And we'll get him back here.
Ryan did say this afternoon he thought he might be a toss-up, but then he said he could make it.
That's kind of what I thought too. Yeah. So with the schedule and the holidays, it's messed everybody up. But be that as it may, I hope everybody had a great Christmas. Those of you celebrating, hopefully your Hanukkah's going well, and Kwanzaa, and hopefully you enjoyed Festivus, because I know I did. And Happy New Year and everything like that too. But I mean, how in the world are we as fans supposed to have any confidence going into a game against a red hot Bengals team who throws the ball all over creation and is doing it well, and we can't even cover anybody? And
let's go back to the game plan the last time we played Cincinnati, right? That it was, we're going to take Jamar Chase out of the game, and if T. Higgins beats us, T. Higgins beats us, and T. Higgins almost beat us. And I mean, this is arguably top down the best receiving core in the league. Add in Mike Gesicki, who's been playing really well. Looks like reports are Chase Brown might play this week too, which he had a pretty big game, so we were sitting back more. I really don't know. I mean, JPJ got just roasted the last game. I mean, that was what, the 4 penalty game or 5 penalty game, whatever it was. Yeah. And I don't know if he's going to play or not. So, how much do you trust James Pierre? Corey Trice has a nice physical body that, Trice is a good physical specimen. He can potentially turn into a good corner, but he just doesn't have the snaps and experience. He's probably going to get torched if we try and run him out there against Chase or Higgins, but I trust him more than Cam Sutton too. And then the other little guy, their slot receiver, is actually pretty good too. So it's not a good matchup. Honestly, I think the only way we win this game is to do it in a shootout again, like we did last time.
I think it's got to be us running the ball, and of course that took a slight blow today because Tomlin said Warren's a little dinged up and he's going to be probably limited through some of the week. Now that doesn't mean that he won't play, but you definitely want your full complement of running backs. I would love to see us chew clock, and just keep Joe Burrow right over on the sideline there, looking like Macaulay Culkin. But we'll talk more about the Bengals and stuff coming up. Offensively, let me go back to something Berner said right in the beginning when we started. What's kind of going on with Russell Wilson. I do want to state that Mike Tomlin was very emphatic today when he was asked about George Pickens. Did he cut off that route? Is that why Russell threw the interception there in the red zone? And Tomlin, no, George Pickens did everything right, he said, and he left it at that. And I expect Tomlin to say that. He's not going to get into a conversation about, well, yeah, he really screwed up and blah, blah, blah. Should Russ have thrown that? No, he's got to be able to see that safety. In my opinion, but at the same time, you expect guys to do what they're supposed to do, and he was banking on that. What are you seeing out of Russ's game, Ian?
Before we get to that, comment from the chat from Philip mentioned the Cordarrelle Patterson run. Not giving the ball to Cordarrelle Patterson every time he's on the field would also be a good offensive schematic change too. I swear there's guys on this team, whether it's, guys that Tomlin likes, guys that Arthur Smith likes, guys that Terrell Austin likes, guys are getting snaps who just flat out suck and don't have it anymore. And they keep running these guys out there expecting something different when there are other guys who could be getting more. Freiermuth has been open a lot this year, and Russ hasn't found him. And I don't want to, disparage an entire position group, but if Pat Freiermuth was a wide receiver, he'd be throwing his helmet, he'd be throwing water jugs, he'd be kicking over benches, but he's a tight end, so he just kind of deals with not getting the ball,
right?
Even though they paid him $50 million this year, or not this year, but gave him a $50 million contract.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's Russ isn't seeing the field. Russ isn't seeing his progressions. Russ is too short behind the offensive line that, when his first read isn't there, he's got to kind of move around to try and create a angle of vision where he can see what's happening. But he's also running himself into trouble. Nothing good is happening when he holds on to the ball for more than a couple seconds. So he's got to just get it out quick. And we saw that with Mahomes too, right? The Steelers were trying to sit back and play deep. They weren't going to get beat over the top. And Mahomes is like, okay, I'm just going to get the ball out, in a half a second and take your pass rush completely out of the game, because Alex Highsmith was having a great game. TJ Watt didn't have really any stats in that game because Mahomes got the ball out so fast. There was a stat somebody posted that said, like, from a time to throw standpoint, that was Mahomes' quickest, like one of the quickest games of his career in terms of getting the ball out of his hand after the snap.
Yeah.
And the Steelers really never adjusted to that. They basically just kept sitting back and just letting Mahomes get the ball out quick to open guys on hot reads or whatever it was. They tried to send a few blitzes, but they never
he would throw right at the blitz every time.
Yeah, they never really brought the guys up and played press. And it's like, okay, maybe you want to make a mid-game adjustment there and play some press on some of these guys.
Mahomes got
at least
the ball
throw them
out.
off their timing a little bit.
Yeah. Mahomes got the ball out at an average of 2.32 seconds. It was his fastest get off all season.
Yeah, ridiculous.
And I don't know that they really had time. Like, there's been some criticism of TJ Watt not getting any pressures in the game, and I'm just like, dude, he had less than 2.5 seconds to get to the quarterback. What do you expect? The dude's getting the ball out that fast. I agree with what Ian's saying. If you're not going to disrupt the timing, you're just going to let them march down the field, even if it's 7 or 8 yards at a chunk in the air. it's going to be continual yards. Going to keep moving the chains. Your defense is going to stay out there, and you're not going to have a chance. So, yeah, Terrell Austin sucks. We've talked about this a lot of times. He's not creative. He doesn't do anything different. But we have to remember that Mike Tomlin's fingerprints are all over that defense. And
that's what I wanted to ask you, Ben. How much of this is Mike? How much of this is Terrell Austin?
Well, I think philosophically it's Mike, but Terrell Austin's calling the plays. Mike can overrule.
Sure.
And, at times he does. But, at the end of the day, Terrell Austin's calling the plays. He's not making adjustments in the coverage. I don't understand it. I don't know why they can't be. About the most creative thing they do is they invert the coverage and they have the safeties come up and the corners drop back. It's like, wow, that's super challenging.
You're still running cover 2.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay, so now your corners are off and your safeties are up. Wow. Okay. I seem to recall a playoff game in Denver that they lost by pulling that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Guy running a slant across the field this way, wide open.
Yeah, I don't. Really
I will go to my grave saying that was not on Ike because he was so far off.
Right.
He was so far off the line. But basically all the guys that I know on the team said it was Ike and that Ike felt responsible. So I don't know how you catch up there. I don't when you're when you're 12, 15 yards off the line and a guy runs a slant and up and in on a slant, how do you catch him?
Right. You're in a horrible situation.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something that's been on social media a lot, and I know it's been mentioned with us before, but do you guys recall last year when Brian Flores was let go by Miami? He was in the midst of the lawsuit that had been filed against the NFL. I just want to make sure I have this right, because a lot of people say, we kept the wrong guy. It was always okay, but it was always my understanding that wasn't Flores just kind of there to be an advisor, and there was never anything that said he was going to stick around or not.
No, he was senior defensive coach, linebackers, and so he was being paid very well, like being paid like a coordinator.
Oh yeah.
The problem was Austin had only had 1 year as a coordinator, and they gave him 3-year contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike is not a guy who will kick guys out,
right?
Because there's a better option. Now, he certainly would do that if it was a player.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand why he won't do that with coaches, but he won't. And it's a little fucking annoying.
Agreed.
So just to clarify one thing Ben said there. So that was after Terrell Austin's first year as our defensive coordinator, but he had been a defensive coordinator previously, because Ben said Austin only had 1 year as a coordinator. Detroit and Cincinnati,
right.
Correct.
Right. And he had 1 year as a coordinator in Pittsburgh.
Correct.
On a 3-year contract. Okay, so from Mike's standpoint, I made a 3-year commitment to this guy. I can't just bump him out of the way because I've got somebody that I think might be better. Yeah,
but
for sure.
Rooney's standpoint, because we talked about this with Canada, right? That Art doesn't like to fire coordinators. He doesn't like to pay guys who aren't working for him.
Yeah, and I don't know that Terrell Austin's making $700,000 a year. In fact, I doubt it. But he's probably making good money, $500,000. Sure. And Art Rooney doesn't like to do that. We know that. Nope. That's certainly, I'm sure, played into it. But I think for Mike Tomlin, he just doesn't do that to guys. And again, my thought process is exactly this. If it were a player and you had a guy who was better, what would you do? Would you replace him? Yes, you would. So what's the difference, Mike? What's the difference? Keep the guy in-house. Keep the guy in-house. Because what Flores is doing right now in Minnesota is extremely creative. It's fantastic. He's got an offensive-minded coach as a head coach.
Yep.
So he's basically got carte blanche to do whatever he wants, and he is. Oh, and he wouldn't have lasted that long in Pittsburgh because Tom Brady, the minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, intends he and Bullcut, what's his name? Mark Davis. Mark Davis intend to fire Antonio Pierce. He's going to be a one and done. And they like Flores to be the head coach because Brady's got a relationship there.
Yeah. I don't blame him. No, I think Melvin's point is very accurate. I think there is a loyalty issue that is strong, and I think there's a loyalty thing there that's a weakness for Mike Tomlin too. I've always thought that, but is what it is, and it sure would be fun though because Flores is blitzing like 40% of plays right now.
It's not it's not just the blitzes. It's the coverage schemes. The coverage schemes he uses are really creative, and I think he picked that up from Bill Belichick.
You would think so.
I really like the defense he's running. I watched them play Green Bay yesterday, and I'm just like, God, these fucking guys.
Would you say that defense has more or less talent than what the Steelers defense has?
I think their DB's a little bit better, but it also could just be that they're set up for success, which I'm not sure that our DBs are necessarily set up for success. Elliott is highly effective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of KZ this year. Minka is super talented, but he's
just kind of
playing hero ball a little bit too often, I guess is the way I would put it. And you got a small corner in Dante Jackson and a bigger corner in Joey Porter Jr., who plays a very physical brand of young guy football and, gets a lot of penalties. And Joey doesn't give up a lot of touchdowns, but he gives up a lot of long fucking defensive pass interference calls. Right. So what's the difference? I mean, they're going to score on you anyway. My God.
And one other thing on
go ahead,
Flores, the other mistake that was made here is that to Ben's point, yes, Flores is probably in line to be considered for a head coaching job now.
He is.
And
no doubt,
this is his second year in Minnesota, which means that if he gets a head coaching job, Minnesota will receive, per the NFL's diversity hiring rules,
third round picks in 2 consecutive years. They get two third-round picks.
It's two now? It's 2. Yes.
He's only there for 2 years. I thought you had to be there for 3 years to get 2. No,
I think it's just 2.
If a minority head coach or GM is hired by another team, you get third-round comp picks for 2 consecutive years.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. So the rule is that they had to have been there for 2 years, though, and that's where the Steelers screwed up. That they only kept Flores for 1. If they had kept him for a second year and let him go on those head coaching interviews, we could have potentially been in line to have 2 third-round picks coming our way. And now Minnesota has a chance to get them because they've kept him there for 2 years.
But again, after the 1 year, 1 year in Pittsburgh, and Tomlin's not going to break his word to Terrell Austin. God damn, I wish he would. Right. And Flores has got an opportunity to move up, and Tomlin's not going to stand in the way.
Right? No. Exactly. And for the record, I'm not at all opposed to teams getting compensatory draft picks for minority candidates being developed and hired away.
No, but you got to play the game though.
Right, exactly. If you have a guy who you think has head coach potential, you want to try and hang on to him for at least 2 years. So if he gets a job, then you're in line for those picks. And actually, I would argue personally that I think the biggest flaw in that rule by the NFL is that you don't get credit if you promote an in-house candidate, right? Like, if we had hired Omar Khan as GM from another organization, that team would have gotten 2 third-round picks. But we don't get credit for promoting a candidate internally for developing someone, into an executive role. If Minnesota, for some reason, if Kevin O'Connell decides he doesn't want to coach anymore, if Minnesota promotes Brian Flores from DC to head coach, they don't get 2 third-round picks for that, which I think is stupid. Because if the point of the rule is to promote opportunities for minority candidates, you should reward teams regardless.
Right.
Like, if you develop a guy who's good enough to become your own head coach, why shouldn't you be, why shouldn't you be rewarded for that? Or if you develop a guy who's good enough to be your GM,
that should have been the first step.
Yeah.
I mean, really, maybe they'll alter that. I don't know.
Maybe. The other thing I wanted to mention too on this topic though, is that model of having a guy who was a former head coach, who was a defensive mind, come in a, I'll say, executive assistant role, worked for us before. And that opportunity presented itself again this year when the Jets fired Robert Saleh.
Yep.
And Green Bay called him up the next week and he was in practice. And the Packers have been playing some pretty darn good defense over the second half of the season after they brought in Saleh as like an executive assistant to help with the defense, basically, or a special consultant or whatever they're calling him. I think they basically gave him a title that's not a title so he can still collect his money from the Jets. But nevertheless, it's, there was an opportunity to do that this year to help our team out. And Green Bay jumped on the opportunity because there was a pre-existing relationship there between LaFleur and Saleh. They knew each other from the San Francisco days, but nevertheless, like, it's another missed opportunity.
Yes. Tomlin today was asked about the fact that, of course, the Ravens game will be over by the time that we kick off. And the outcome will be known as to whether or not we'll be on the road or have a chance to be at home. And he was more open to the possibility of resting some guys than I thought he would. He said that he'll let things kind of play out and dictate that, as he talks. And Ben, what would you do if you're in Mike Tomlin's position and the ball's about to be kicked off and you see that the Ravens have done this? What would you do?
It would have no bearing whatsoever on the
game.
None
for
as far
you.
As I'm concerned. None. Because the Steelers train is off the track right now. And they need to get it back on.
Yep.
So at best, if, let's just say hypothetically, somehow the Ravens had lost. Damn it. Why does this keep doing this?
You're fine. Your audio's good.
Shit. I would play for the win.
Yeah.
But even if the Ravens win, still playing for the win, regardless. Because this team needs to get their fucking act together. And the only way to do that is for the whole team to play.
Ian, same question to you. What would you do?
Yeah. So I think Tomlin did two things with his answer today. One being, from a game planning schematic standpoint, it forces Cincinnati to be like, oh, well, you never know. We got to prepare a little bit for Justin Fields just in case he comes in. But also saying like, well, we'll see how things play out. I mean, if we're getting our asses kicked, if it's, 31-3 at halftime or something stupid like that, like there's no reason to play our starters in the second half. Yeah, sure, play some other guys. If same thing the other way. If we're beating the shit out of them, which, I mean, that would probably take a couple pick sixes for that to happen. But if we're, if we're up by a lot, TJ Watt's nursing an injury. Maybe he doesn't need to play every snap in the second half if we're, if we're winning by 28 points or something like that. So yes, situationally, you'll let things kind of play out and dictate how they go, because you do want to be healthy and fresh going into the postseason. But nevertheless, I think, to Ben's point, and also getting back to the point that somebody, I think it was KR, made in the chat earlier about who's the best playoff matchup for us. If we lose this game, there's a very real possibility that we wind up going to Baltimore, which is not a good situation. And honestly, the Chargers are playing a lot better now than they were when they came in here earlier this season. So I would say, Houston is probably the best matchup for us, even though it's a road game outside the Eastern time zone. I still think Houston's because Houston's playing just as bad as we are as of late.
Houston's playing really badly right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you want to win this game because even if Baltimore wins, you want to try and get that 5 seed and go to Houston.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say regarding the potential sitting of some guys is and I'll just piggyback on what you guys were saying, is that, if the game gets out of hand one way or the other, then I would definitely have, thoughts of sitting Cam Hayward, of sitting TJ Watt a little more often. Because let's face it, I think we all agree that the team is in such a way that they need to be on the field and get it right. But we also know that the fan base, the first freaking thing that would happen if Russell Wilson turned an ankle down by 17 in the fourth quarter, people would lose their shit. But
do you remember? I think was it 2008 against the Browns, the last game of the season, where they were just like taking headshots at Roethlisberger, and they knocked him out of that game, or they hit him, and I think it was 2008, and Tom was like, okay, no, we're putting Charlie Batch in, no more of this, and we had a bye that year, and he might not have been able to play if we didn't have a bye that first round.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right on that. George Pickens, made some nice catches and stuff. I mean, do they need to get him involved a little sooner, do you think, Ian?
Yeah, and Pickens can do more from a route running standpoint than what they're having him do. I know he draws a lot of coverage, but Pickens' best and most effective games this year have been when they try and get him on a couple quick slants early, just get him the ball in space, let him use his natural athleticism to just make guys miss. He's more than just, a jump ball catcher. Yeah. That said, too, we've gotten away from the moon balls a little bit the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That, Russ hasn't been taking as many, shots down the field, it seems.
Well,
and I don't know if some
guys
of that,
can catch them.
Yeah. But still, sometimes you got to take your chances too. Like I thought and part of against Kansas City was he had guys in his face all day. He didn't have any time to throw, but still sometimes when the defense, and every defense we've faced recently, I mean, they're all cheating up to stop the run. They're playing single coverage on the outside. When Pickens was out, especially, they were like, we don't, Philadelphia was like, no one's going to beat us. Van Jefferson's not going to beat us deep.
Right.
So we're going to, play single coverage and one high safe man coverage
and it worked.
High safety, and it worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those deals where until you show them that you can beat the defense they're putting on the field, they're just going to keep fucking running it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you keep going 3 and out, 3 and out, and 3 and out, yeah, guess what?
I just real quick in the chat, it was asked about playing the wild card Saturday because we play Saturday this week. The answer is no. That won't what's the word? It's not predicated on that. It's going to depend on who we play. It's going to depend on how the networks want things to go. I mean, obviously, if it's a Pittsburgh at Baltimore matchup, all the networks are going to be dying to get that because it's ratings gold. Whereas, if it's us in Houston, shit, we could be in that Saturday afternoon window. I don't
fucking hope not. I really hope not, but I think it's probably going to be because I'm at a conference that weekend and I have to work on Saturday. So, oh my fucking God.
Yeah, not good to be you, buddy. Yeah. So just wanted to answer that point.
I'll say this: I'd rather play Saturday than Monday, though. Monday would suck.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the worst ideas the NFL's ever had.
There is a Monday game that weekend?
There is a Monday game.
Oh, yeah.
There's 2 on Saturday. There's 2 Saturday, 3 Sunday, and 1 Monday.
Because of player safety,
money. It's all about money, right?
Assholes.
Yeah.
I hate Monday night games.
Going back to
remember Mark back in the day, back in the day.
Oh yeah,
when Monday Night Football,
it was special.
It was huge. It was an event. Like everyone went to their local neighborhood bar and watched Monday Night Football. It was a big deal, and the bars were packed.
Some in the chat will remember this. And it was this time of year. I remember being home from college, and our group, we would always head to the same place, and they knew we would come in every year for those 2 or 3 Monday night games that we would be in town for. And it didn't matter who was playing. We would fill up their bar area, and we would have an absolute blast.
Didn't matter who was playing.
No, because Monday Night Football was.
It could have been the Dolphins and the Jets this year, and we'd still go.
You'd still go. You went for the fellowship. You went because Monday night was awesome. It was the last game of the week. And of course, that was before you really had
Danny Dunn.
Yeah, and you didn't really have any. You didn't have college football during the week at that time.
That's true.
I think the Thursday night games had just started. Maybe, but yeah. Let me go back to Pickens for a second. I watched a lot of the Vikings-Packers yesterday, and it was really interesting because Jefferson was pretty much invisible in the first quarter, and it was really curious to see how they got the ball to him. And what they did is they got him on a couple bubble screens just to get the ball in his hands. Then all of a sudden it just opened up a tad more, and there was a slant, and then there was a little outcut, and there was a little dagger route. It's like, how refreshing would that be to see our offense actually do something like that, rather than just say, okay, George, we want you to run straight down the field, and we're going to try and get you involved that way. It's like everybody else is playing chess and we're just playing checkers half the time. I'll get off my soapbox now.
I think the point you made earlier about getting him involved, in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And keeping it, even if it's just like a 7-yard out.
Yes.
And you give him an opportunity to create a little space and maybe get some yards and get the first down. Great. I would advocate for doing that. That's me. And I hope that Russ is looking to do that this week. We'll see what happens. I mean, they may have learned from the last handful of weeks that, Pickens is the offense, and just gear up to stop him, bracket him right off the line, high, low, corner safety, and boom, boom. I mean, you still can throw into that guy because he's so huge. His catch radius is gigantic.
Ridiculous.
He's got those huge fucking hands. My God. The dude's pulling down balls one-handed. I mean, when you're that gifted an athlete, you're going to get a little bit of an attitude, and he clearly has one. But yeah, getting him involved early, keeping him in the game, keeping his head in the game, I think would be helpful.
No, I agree. I think he needs that. I think his maturity level is such that you just have to get him involved, because if you don't, then the head drops and the shoulders come forward and
he stops running routes.
Yep.
3 yards out because he wasn't sure what his assignment was anyway. So he's like, fuck it. I'm just going to start blocking.
Yeah.
Dude, what are you doing?
And look, I appreciate Mike Tomlin covering for him and putting an end to the conversation, but I don't care what anybody tells me. He didn't run the right route. He didn't.
No, he didn't. 100%. He didn't run the right route. He didn't even run a route on that play at all. But yes, I respect Tomlin saying, look, personal accountability. Russ should have seen that safety and not thrown that ball. Okay. But I know that if Pickens had ran a corner route like it looked like he was supposed to, that safety would have held, and that opportunity would have been there, and Freiermuth would have had a chance at a touchdown. I thought the ball was flat coming across the line, the end zone.
Agree.
The goal line. It could have had a little more loft to it, but still, I know that he would have had a shot at it at least. The safety on him on the other side had outside leverage. The ball was thrown inside. I think, and it's another one of these themes with Russ where it's like the right read but a bad throw, and he's had a bunch of those the last few weeks.
Yeah,
where it's like, okay, dude, that was the right read, but that was bad throw.
Speaking of Russ, I've really noticed that teams are absolutely positively taking away his first option.
Mhm.
And Ian, you alluded to this earlier in the show, and I think there's validity to it. When they take away the first read, it's not just that he's got to go to his second read. It's also that he struggles to see over the line at that point, and that's usually when he starts moving to his right or his left.
They're getting a lot of pressure inside, though.
Well, that too. Yeah, I that the offensive line is a whole other thing. But I mean, so you've seen the same thing I'm seeing, just in terms of that's the game plan right now that teams seem to have against him.
I think so. It's you pressure him, you get him off his spot, and nothing good is happening. You take away the first read and get him off his spot, and nothing good is happening when he holds on to the ball. It's either he's taking a sack or actually some of Russ's most effective plays were his scramble runs against Kansas City. And I know a lot of our rushing yards came basically when we gave up already. And, Kansas City was just sitting back. They're like, we're not going to let you throw it deep. You can run for as many yards as you want. But how many times do you run for 200 yards in a game and lose?
Isn't that amazing?
Lose by 3 scores, right? Not even just lose a close game. We ran for over 200. Granted, 80 of that was in the fourth quarter, but still.
A lot of Najee and a lot of Russ Wilson scrambles.
Yeah. In garbage time, but still, it was there's a lot of broken things in this offense right now.
Yeah.
And playing a bad defense like Cincinnati might just be what they need to get things back in line heading into the postseason.
What worries me,
although Cincinnati is playing better.
They're turning the ball over.
They're playing better on defense. And Tomlin was, his usual superlatives at his presser about how good they were. And I get that. You've got to take them seriously. They're an NFL team. But they're not great.
Nope.
I think one of the things that's wrong with Russ is he seems to have an aversion lately to just dropping it down, throwing a check down. What's wrong with the hot route? I mean, on that interception to 23, was it Reed? So he's throwing the ball at Muth. 23 comes in, catches it.
Yeah.
Off to the right sideline, Jalen Warren is open. And it's not like he would have scored with it. It was, it's 8 yards downfield. 8 yards downfield. It would have either been second and short or it would have been, it would have been a first down.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? Why does he have to go one? Okay, it's not there. Second read. Okay, I'm looking for that. What's wrong with the hot route? What's wrong with that? If they're getting interior pressure and you can't see over the line because they're getting pressure through your guards, what's wrong with dropping the hot route? I don't understand. I mean, it's positive yards. Let's just get it done. It's not like you're throwing a swing pass over here that's going to get you 1 yard. Yeah,
but Ben, Russ is washed. His average depth of target is so low if he checks it down all the time. That's the dumbest thing, right? You saw that the first game against Cincinnati when we put up 24 points in the first half, and most we'd scored in a half in 5 years, and people are like, yeah, but he's checking it down. It's like, well, that's what the defense is giving you. If they're playing cover 2 and the linebackers are dropping 7 yards, you take the 3-yard pass to Warren and let him bowl forward for a couple more yards, and then you're in second and 5.
Every time.
If you get 5 yards on first down, that's a successful down. You're on schedule. Now you've got second and 5 or less. That's very makeable. It's going to put you in third and short, which is just very makeable.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, that's the other team. That's the other thing this team has not done well lately is they have not converted short yardage situations. They've not converted third downs. The offense hasn't been able to stay on the field, which the defense has been on the field so much over the last 3 weeks that it just hasn't been a good recipe. That you don't convert third downs, you're giving the ball back to the other team. Oh, you're giving Mahomes and Lamar and Jalen Hurts more time with the ball. That's not a recipe for winning against good teams. You got to convert third downs. You got to keep your offense on the field, but that starts on first and second down. You got to, like Ben said, you got to stay on schedule. You got to get good first down results. And watching some of these other teams in the league, I don't know if the Steelers know this, but it is possible to pick up a first down on a down before third down. You don't have to wait till third down to get a first down. You could do it on second down.
It is allowed. I checked.
Yes.
Yeah. KR asked about, the result, how much shit hits the fan with the round one exit. And my answer is going to be this. I'm not going to go there yet. Obviously the shit will hit the fan if that's the case, but I want to wait until if and when that happens. Because right now I'm just strictly focused on playing a good game this week to see if we can get shit together. And then I'll worry about that. But believe me, KR, I totally understand where you're coming from. Absolutely.
What about
then? Yeah, go ahead.
What about?
Yeah.
We touched on this last week, but Najee looks less and less effective.
Yep.
Every fucking week. And the dancing he does 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, not only do I not understand it, I think it's detrimental to the team. So why the fuck is he still getting carries?
Well, because we used a first round pick on him, and I don't know. I have no good reason. I've been on the Jaylen Warren RB1 train for 2 years now. And I know Warren was banged up earlier this year, and
he's banged up this week.
But yes,
and I mean, even Cordero Patterson, who he's not a good running back anymore. At least he just bashes forward.
Yes,
he doesn't fiddle fuck around with. It seems like Najee has to come to a complete stop to change direction.
Is it possible? And I'm spitballing. Is it possible that because his touches have declined in recent weeks and he's put up his 1,000 yards, is he making business decisions right now?
I think he's a competitor and wants to win. I mean,
I do too, but he just doesn't look like the same guy he was a couple weeks ago.
He's doesn't seem as aggressive. I'll agree with you there.
He's not. And again, I talked about this earlier this year on the show. This is a guy who came in with a lot of mileage.
Yep,
from Alabama, and he's had a fair amount of mileage as a Steeler as well.
Oh yeah.
And I wonder how much he's got left. Clearly in decline, deep in decline. Can you imagine if they'd exercised the 5th-year option on this dude? And they owed him, what was it? I don't know, $8 million next year. What was the 5th-year option?
Something. About that.
7 something.
7 and change.
Yeah.
Or was it 6 and change? I don't know. But it's guaranteed. And you're like, okay, so this dude is going to be our guaranteed running back one next year. Wow. So they made the right decision as far as I'm concerned. Sucks. I like Najee as a person. He's, seems like a great dude.
Yep.
But he's not a running back one anymore, and maybe he is making business decisions. Maybe he does want to be able to go into free agency healthy. I don't know, but it ain't good. That's all.
No, it's a very distinct difference to me when I see him running the last couple weeks. And again, better defenses. I understand all that. But over the last several weeks prior to that, I saw a guy running angry, running hard, not tippy-toeing as much. And now all of a sudden I see that again. And Claude, I agree with you. This offensive line has struggled at times. There's no doubt about that. And as a running back, I understand where that could be frustrating. Because you've got a mountain of a man like Mason McCormick who really just is like me hit guy, and sometimes it's not always the right guy, and I get it. It can be really, really frustrating. But I don't know. It's just been a real difference to me in watching him. This week, obviously we've got Joe Burrow and he's playing really well. And one of the things that really scares me about him, and he did this against us the first time we played him, he might step up in the pocket better than anybody else right now in football.
Burrow?
I mean, Burrow, he steps up
Burrow,
and just
he's stepping up. He does some nifty little things in the pocket, even laterally.
Yes,
where you're just like, dude, and his footwork when he throws is so fucking good.
Yes,
that's the thing that stands out to me when I watch the guy.
Yep.
Throw the ball. I'm like, holy shit, man! It's perfect.
Yeah, and it's exactly what I'm talking about. He just seems the way. I love his fundamentals. He's always got an extra hand on the ball.
Yeah,
I mean, especially when he knows TJ Watt's bearing down on him or whatnot. But he
and
I
really admire his dedication to his Ellen DeGeneres impression. I think it's fantastic.
Yes, I do as well. I earlier called him Macaulay Culkin, but I do like the Ellen DeGeneres thing. That's very funny. By the way, is she still living in America? I heard she may have left for Europe or something like that. But which if Joe Burrow wants to, this would be a great week for him to go to Europe. But somehow I don't see that happening.
We might go to Europe next year. The reports are the Steelers might have a game in Ireland next.
It's
season.
Looking that way.
A home game, no less.
Yes, a home game in Dublin. And I'm not going to get into it because we'll have plenty of time this summer to get into it. I'm not a fan of it, but it is what it is. Aaron, I saw Rent. It's an excellent Broadway production. I saw it. I've seen many Broadway performances myself.
Very interesting. Not that there's anything wrong with that or anything.
I think my
go to all the musicals you like and sing all the show tunes that you like, Mark. Nothing implied there.
Actually, look at KR, man. This is an idea right here.
Here's an idea.
Oh, baby.
Here's a guy.
All right. Now, if we start collecting pop cans here in Michigan, I can
let me see. 5 cents a pop.
Yeah.
Kramer and Newman had it down pat, and then they just screwed it up. But boy, what a great idea that was.
6:30 in the morning, Vinny, for me. Eastern time, 9:30.
Yeah, it'd be 9:30 if they kick off at 1:30. Let's say 1 or 1:30. Well, no, whatever they call it over there.
I mean, the Europe games are always crack of fucking dawn.
Yep.
For you, because you live on the wrong side of the country.
Yeah, I live on the best side of the country. Shut up.
The left coast, if you will.
Coast.
So anyway, the Brown kid had a really awkward injury this weekend. I don't know if you guys saw that. He was actually going down rather than scoring. And both of his feet kind of buckled. And
the Brown kid?
I was glad
Chase
to see him
Brown,
get up.
the running back from Cincy.
Chase Brown.
Oh,
yeah.
no, I didn't see that.
Oh, man, it was a weird.
That's actually weird too bad because I like him as a player. I mean,
number one,
the wrong fucking team, obviously, but
sure. Number one, it's like he goes down to keep the clock running so they could just kick an easy field goal. He goes off injured, and the very next play, they QB sneak Burrow for the touchdown. Leaving a bunch of time on the clock. I did not really understand that clock management.
Yeah, the clock management on that sequence was a little
very bizarre. But to my point is that kid's a really good football player, and nobody's 100% this time of year either way. But it'll be curious to see what his designations are as the week goes by. And T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, I don't know what you can say. Freaking Mike Gesicki had 12 targets in that game. The number 80, whose name I can never say, and I'm not going to try. Yasavas?
Yeah.
I don't know. Some Greek name, it looks like. He's a decent player. It's all Greek to me. Yeah. So that offense, man, I really think we've Ian, you're probably right. We're probably going to have to outscore them again. Some kind of situation like that. But
I think it's just my instinct. I think the defense is going to play better this week. That said, that offense can still, even if a defense is playing well, that offense can put up 28 on them.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, this
they're
is the
that
type of
fucking
game.
good.
This is the type of game to me that our offense could really get some confidence back, or things can just continue to kind of snowball and get worse. And that's what really obviously concerns me amongst many other things. But
There are two things that happened in the last game that people need to take into consideration. One, there was a pick six right away in the first series.
Yes.
Russ threw a pick six and gave them an advantage, and that gave them 7 points right out of the gate. And then the Steelers got up 41-24 at one point, and it looked like it was over. I was like, oh, yeah, it's over.
Nope.
Yep, it's over. It's happening now. We're good. 17
the
points.
The absent Scarpino said the same thing.
We're good. Game's over. Yeehaw. So now we got garbage time, right?
Yeah.
They're playing soft coverage against the Bengals, and they put 14 more on you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You kick a field goal. Now it's 44-38. But 21 of those points were garbage time, points.
Absolutely.
Scores the offense gave up. So bear that in mind with the total. But I still think this offense is so good that they can put 28 on a good defense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So
this game could easily be played in the 30s. Hi, Joe.
Yeah, I think Joe makes a good point here. Yeah,
again, we'll just one quick point on the Bengals. They are 1-6 this year when playing a team with a winning record.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And the over has hit on every one of those games. So
I also saw a
bet
stat
accordingly
that Mike Tomlin is 11-0 when he has 10 days off following a loss. I think I'm pretty sure I got to go back and find it, but
we
I'm
only
pretty
have
sure
9 days off.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? 9 days?
We only have 9 days off.
Wednesday to Saturday. Yeah.
All right. Well, throw that out the window. Real quick, the Steelers will likely vote for their team MVP this week. They usually do it in the week
Boswell.
leading.
Boswell.
I don't have any problem with that. I know there are arguments to be made for TJ Watt, but I am Chris Boswell all the way.
I think TJ's voting for Boswell.
I would think so too.
And we'll probably stand up in a team meeting and say, Boswell.
Right. Right. I mean, you just look at where he is. What is he? 5 field goals shy of the record. All due respect, Boz, I hope you don't get it this weekend.
Yeah, me too, man.
Because we're scoring TDs. But
plus, how many's he hit from 50 plus? Like,
remember when
he's having a great year? I mean,
he is.
He has missed one extra point, which is weird, but
yeah. Remember when was it the late 80s, like 88, 89, Gary Anderson hit that like 49-yard field goal in Houston.
Yep.
Send us to the playoffs.
Yep.
And that was one of my first memories as a Steelers fan. I was like 3 or 4 years old. But I remember thinking like that was such a long, like everyone was like, that's such a long kick. He kicked
at that time it
so
was
far. Like 49 yards was so long. And even, 20 years ago, you kind of thought like any 45 to 50 was kind of like a toss up, and then 50 plus was a lot. And now it's like these guys are booming 50 to 58 like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy.
It is. It really is.
And kicking a 50 plus yard ball in Heinz Field.
Yeah.
After about mid-October is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it really is. Especially November, December. It's like, fuck.
Well, and not only that, you're dealing with usually some new sod as well.
The sod did seem pretty slick last week. I wasn't overly impressed. But then I talked to people who were walking on it, and they said, no, it's fucking beautiful. It was fantastic.
Okay. It looked very nice.
Just the cleats the guys were wearing or what? And this is what somebody told me. He's like, no, man, it was absolutely like I walked around on it. It was absolutely gorgeous and perfect. They put the whole, they replaced
Watt was losing his edge several times.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just him.
Around.
What looks like a guy playing with an ankle injury.
that Russ had. Yeah. Watt looks a little bit hobbled.
I agree.
Because it is not the ankle he's got to push off of when he's turning the corner, but it's the angle he's got to pivot on.
Mhm.
You know, he's got to have that bend. You're going around the corner. You got to have enough angle flexibility to really lean to the inside. So, yeah, I'm sure he's putting a lot of stress on it. Kind of a big deal. You know,
KR, yeah, I think
Yes.
Frazier is a slam dunk. I think there's, I think Peyton Wilson's had a very nice year. He's played
not
probably.
Troy Fautanu.
No.
Mark, did we pick Rookie of the Year back on our preseason
We
show?
did pick
I
Rookie
think
of the
you
Year.
have it on the wall, yeah.
I do, and we all four of us had Zach Frazier.
Yeah.
We were smart back then.
Yeah. Well, the rest of this, we don't look very smart at all. Let me tell you.
Don't read that.
Holy shit! Is this? Some of these, you're just gonna shit when you see some of these predictions we had.
I think I had the Dolphins winning the AFC East.
Well, I mean, all of us still have our Super Bowl predictions are quite alive and well. Oh, wait, no. Scarpino's not.
Well, he got the 49ers.
He had the Niners winning it. Yeah.
Oh, did he? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's over.
Ben had the Chiefs. Ian's got Detroit winning. I
had Detroit over Kansas City, I think.
You did.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I had a Green Bay Houston Super Bowl, which is possible, but not likely.
Houston probably is going to make Green Bay is playing. Dude,
Ben had Green Bay in the Super Bowl, didn't he?
No, he had. Oh no, he did. KC versus Green Bay, but you had the Chiefs winning it.
Right.
Yeah, we'll revisit all these at the end of the year.
The whole NFC North looks fucking good, except for the Bears, who are terrible. But you got three teams in there that, god damn, they're good. I mean, that Green Bay Minnesota game.
That was a good football game yesterday.
On Saturday, yesterday.
Whatever it was.
God, that was a good fucking game, man. That was good. That was fun football to watch and have no rooting interest, so that made it even more fun.
Did you guys happen to notice this weekend that, and I know there's probably tons of fans that'll disagree with me here, but I'll say it anyway. The officiating was not one of the major stories this weekend in the NFL. It seemed to me
which
and that's what I mean
on Twitter.
Because the one game, God, fucking Clete Blakeman again, his crew just takes over games, and it is so miserable.
Yes,
and I just don't. Even the announcers were talking about.
Yeah,
I mean, look, there are calls you got to make. I get it. But the Green Bay game, there was a call. Did you see the call on Harrison Smith? They called him for a low block.
Yes. I was like,
what? He was taking on the blocker. What was he supposed to do? He was going to get killed by a guy 50 pounds bigger than him.
I have no idea. I was like, huh? The dude was even maintaining his base. It wasn't like he was diving.
Right.
I was like,
right.
What?
Yeah. All right. 8 p.m. Saturday night, the Pittsburgh Steelers will host the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm hopeful this is going to be a very heavily black and gold crowd. Ben, what's your prediction for the season finale, the regular season finale?
Well, I've already told you all the Bengals are 1-6 versus teams with winning records, and the over always is covered this year in those 7 games. So I believe the over-under in this game is 48.5.
That seems low.
Really low. I think the last time they played, the over-under was 50, and they still blew it out of
They hit it at halftime, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they had the third most points in an NFL game this year.
And right now it opened Bengals 2.5, and now it's Bengals 3.
Okay.
Which tells you what the public thinks, but they're not following betting trends. The Bengals just beat a Broncos team with a good defense and a suspect offense, and they beat them in overtime. I think the nod here goes to the Steelers in those same kind of circumstances. I think that they got a good defense and kind of a mediocre offense, and I expect the offense, and in particular Russ, to be a little bit fired up this week, and that veteran savvy, if you will, rather than Bo Nix to carry the day. So I am looking at the Steelers to win this 34-28.
Okay. All right. 34-28, a little lower scoring than last time. What do you got, Ian?
I think it's going to be a shootout again. The last game had 2 defensive touchdowns, one for each team. And like we said earlier in the show, I kind of thought we were screwed after that initial pick 6 because I didn't think that spotting them 7 points, we'd be able to keep up the rest of the way, but we did. I don't see how we stop their passing game absent pressure on the quarterback, getting some sacks, getting some turnovers, like strip sacks, forced fumbles on Burrow, things like that, because their receivers are better than our defensive backs across the board.
Yep.
So they're going to score some points. That said, they've got some kicking problems too. Their kicker missed a couple kicks against Denver, and we've got a pretty good kicker. So I'm going to go.
That's a really good point.
Very good. Yeah.
I'm going to go. I'll give Boz a couple. How many does Boz need to break the record?
5 to tie, I believe.
Oh, that's too many. No.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go Steelers 37-31.
Wow. A lot of points.
Bet
the over. What we're saying is bet the over.
I'm going to take a little different tack on this one, only because every time the Steelers have kind of had me thinking one way, they've kind of gone another this year. I think both teams will score points, but I think it's going to be a little lower. I'm going to go with the Steelers 26, Bengals 23. Just a little lower. I think the defenses will make some plays. I just got that feeling, and we'll leave it at that. And I think this is a huge game.
We should have asked Scarpino what the score he was predicting, since he's showing up.
He must be asleep or something. He's not even answering messages.
Did you text him?
Yeah. And Ian messaged him too. What was I going to say?
Well,
shit, forgot. In any case, I just think this is a bigger game than we might otherwise think, especially for Mike Tomlin. I mean, if we lose this game and we go in and are one and done, man, I mean, the pitchforks and the torches are going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And
rightfully so.
And rightfully so, if that happens. Absolutely. So that's my take on it. And normally at this particular point of the show, everyone, I would turn it over to Mr. Casey Kasem. But since he is he's absent. He's absent.
He's still frozen in carbonite.
Frozen in carbonite. I love it. Jabba the Hutt's appreciating him right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, make sure you check out the website, steelcityblitz.com. Follow us on all of our socials and all that good stuff. Thanks always to Frank Walker Law, Variety Sports Network, and of course Deck Roofing down there in South Florida. Sorry, your Dolphins didn't. They still got a shot technically, but anyway,
all that has to happen is the Broncos have to lose, and they got to win, and they're in.
That's true. That's
one of the things that the Bengals have got to win, and they need 2 teams to lose,
right,
to get in. So I don't see it.
Yeah. And absolutely have a great New Year. Be safe out there, everybody. Party responsibly, as they say. Well,
Happy New Year's, everyone.
Some of you. So
Hardy.
Anyway, thanks so much. Have a great night. And as always, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.
I guess technically